Welcome everybody to the War and Peace Baseball Podcast. It is episode 92 for Tuesday, October 24th. I'm Alex Uwe, and I'm here today with Ray Estrada and Alex Rudy. What's up, guys?
How's it going?
Not much right now.
So, this is hard for me personally, and I will be a trooper and I will get through this. But my team is gone. They've plunged a dagger through my heart, and congratulations to the Houston Astros, but also screw the Houston Astros for advancing to the World Series. So, if you've been paying attention to anything, it's Houston, it's LA, it's the big matchup, and we'll talk all about that. First of all, I'm pretty sure I know how you guys feel about this World Series, but, how are you guys dealing with this matchup? Are you guys happy with the outcomes? You guys wish things went differently?
I mean, I'm sure Ray has a lot more to say about this than me as a Dodger fan. But, first off, as a Yankee fan, I'm sure we'll get into it more later. It's disappointing in the end to be so close and not make it. But honestly, this season was far more than I think any reasonable person could have ever expected it to be. And in the end, I really can't complain too much with the result. I think this is a year where, for once, you can say that the two best teams in baseball likely made it to the World Series. I think, the Nationals and the Indians both had a case during the regular season to also, have that label. But I think in the end, you could find a few people who would say that neither of these teams are at least not two of the best, 3 to 4, if not for sure the two best. And it should be a great series. I think the teams match up decently well. And, that should be some good baseball. I think it's good for the sport, honestly, that this playoffs was so entertaining also as well.
Yeah, you have high hopes for the next week and a half or so, Ray. You got a lot to look forward to here.
Yeah, as a Dodgers fan, I feel very confident in this team right now. They look like that the team that made that 43-7 run earlier in the year, a team that doesn't necessarily look at it, because in the NLCS, the only game the Dodgers scored first in was the clincher, Game 5. Mm-hmm. And so, but during the other games, the ones that they won, even the one they lost, they could come back and beat this team. Granted, that was part of the Cubs having a lackluster bullpen, but, this team has that kind of swagger back that we saw in summer, and not the one that lost 16 out of 17. This team is looking very good, and I'm confident against any opponent, whether it was the Yankees or the Astros.
Yeah, it should be good. These are two teams with a ton of momentum going full steam ahead right now. And, obviously both these teams took a little bit different paths to get here. So we'll discuss the League Championship Series matchups that are done and over. We'll talk about those in a little bit if you're more interested in hearing about that. But we should talk about, the teams that earned it. 200-win teams that are squaring off in this World Series. Let's start with Game 1. That's where it's going to start. Tuesday evening at a freaking 100-plus degree Dodger Stadium. That should be interesting. It's going to be Dallas Keuchel. It's going to be Clayton Kershaw. Battle of the K's. Who looks better? Obviously, Kershaw's the best pitcher on the planet, but Dallas Keuchel has a little bit of momentum as well right now. All the Astros pitching has done a really great job this postseason so far. Definitely overperformed. So, especially in this Game 1 matchup, which pitcher looks like they're in the best shape, for this matchup? Obviously, Kershaw more rest. Keuchel has, a little bit, different type of stuff than Kershaw's going to bring. Ray, why don't you talk about Kershaw a little bit?
Kershaw, to me, has looked fine this postseason. I know that we have tried to troll me when he's given up home runs. And yes, he has given up a good number of home runs. But the last start against the Cubs, Game 5, a closeout game, he goes in and is very efficient through 6 innings, through 89 pitches, struck out 5, walked 1, and only gave up a home run to Chris Bryant on not a bad pitch. and a lot of the home runs that he's given up have, except for a couple, have been on like good pitches, and the guy just hit him out. But like Kershaw has looked solid enough this postseason. I think people need to realize, like outsiders need to realize. I think Dodgers fans are starting to realize that he's a solid solid 6 inning pitcher for the Dodgers. Bridge it to the bullpen, bridge it to Morrow, Jansen, and whoever. He's solid. Keuchel looked a little bit shaky in the last, but he was very good in Houston game 1. So I think it'll be interesting. But Clayton Kershaw has looked very solid, and he pitched like an ace in game 5. And I know the storyline wasn't quite that because he still gave up a home run and only went 6, but he looked like an ace. He pitched like an ace, and I feel very confident with Kershaw.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk a little bit of, roster construction, platoon splits here. 2 lefties going. Rudy, which team seems better equipped to hit left-handed pitching throughout the series?
Ooh, it's a great question. I mean, I feel like I'm gonna be honest, I should have been more prepared to know the exact splits that these teams have.
What's going on?
But just from the past series, I mean, I think the Astros offense against the Yankees lefty pitching was like nothing spectacular, at least in my opinion. They didn't. Severino and Sabathia weren't lights out, but they certainly held their own. And it's not like the lefty pitchers on the Dodgers are definitely superior, at least on paper, to Sabathia. The Sabathia did pitch pretty well this playoffs, and comparable, if not better, to peak form Severino. So to me, it has to be the Dodgers, especially coming off that hot, NLCS, where it seemed like their offense was, the best one left in baseball.
Yeah, I think it gets down to the deeper parts of the order with both of these teams. I do think that the Astros have a little bit more lineup depth for sure.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
Because they can start Evan Gattis behind the plate, and they have guys like Gurriel and Martin Gonzalez is a switch hitter. Granted, a much better left-handed hitter, so that's something to keep in mind as well. But the Dodgers, as they go down the line, they do seem to have a lot of good right-handed bats just waiting in the wings, like Austin Barnes, Logan Forsythe. These guys might benefit just from seeing looks from the left side of the plate. I don't know the exact splits. I think Austin Barnes is even better against right-handed pitching.
Yeah, he is.
So it's, I mean, I'm not even going to look at platoon splits with the top of the order guys. Your George Springer, Altuve, Correa, Justin Turner types. These are negligible. What side of the plate or what side of the mound these pitchers are throwing from doesn't matter. So, the next game in this series is going to feature the championship series MVP Justin Verlander, and he's going up against Rich Hill. 2 very different pitchers going in this game.
Pure power versus pure finesse.
Exactly. And this is the time of year that I bring it up constantly, is that stuff plays. And Rich Hill, his stuff isn't electric. He has a great curveball, but he grooves his fastball at 90 miles an hour. If mistakes are made, they're going to be capitalized on. Absolutely. So, Ray, are you concerned at all with the type of repertoire Rich Hill has against a team like the Astros?
No, because he was supposed to struggle against the Diamondbacks, who have touched him up a little bit. He did give up a 2-run homer to Goldschmidt in the first inning, but didn't give up anything past that. And he was very good against the Cubs, only giving up 1 run in his 5 innings there on a home run. And it's so, you say stuff plays, but Hill has his curveball, you can argue, is like very good stuff, and he spots his fastball well. I could see this game, like Hill could lose it 1 or 2-0 just because of how good Verlander is, but I'm not too concerned for Hill because he's faced good lineups this postseason and has shut them down pretty effectively.
Yeah, it is a little bit baffling how Rich Hill is so effective with just that one pitch. And,
he's such a competitor. You see it. He's such a competitor. He gave us that 2-run home run to Goldschmidt in the game 2 of the NLDS, and you're like, oh, okay, here come the Diamondbacks gonna kind of beat up on Rich Hill, and he just shut them down. He looked good. He started spotting that fastball because when he throws that fastball up in the zone at 90 miles an hour after a 76 mile an hour curveball, it looks faster than 90 miles an hour to those guys.
Right. So, you can't say enough about what Verlander's been able to do, but there's concern somewhere down the line. Like, people are gonna adjust to him. Like, obviously when you're as hot as he is, it doesn't even matter what you throw. Everything feels, 100%. Every single pitch is working for him, it seems. The Dodgers have any hope of stopping that kind of momentum? Like we talked about, how these two teams have a ton of momentum. The Dodgers offense has looked really good lately. I'm interested in seeing, what happens when Verlander goes up against Justin Turner. Which one of these guys is going to prevail? Like, that could be a very big deciding force. Just single at bats that can break a pitcher down, or just shut down a hitter's momentum. Either way you go with that. Yeah, I think. You guys have anything else to say about what Verlander's done? Or
I think it'll be curious to see with all these Astros pitchers. Like, the Yankees struck out a lot. Aaron Judge set the single postseason record for strikeouts, and so there's a lot of strikeouts on the Yankees. The Dodgers can see a lot of pitches if they want to. They don't strike out a lot. They can be very disciplined. They can be aggressive when they have to. When they know guys are throwing first pitch strikes. But if guys are going to nibble and try to get to chase, they can be very patient. It'll be interesting to see if they can keep that discipline, or if Verlander can exploit over aggressiveness and just kind of if Verlander can break down that discipline.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like in general, just kind of more of a general overview statement going. I think regardless of what happens this series, I think Verlander's Astros performance and to another extent Sabathia's performance on the Yankees kind of solidified both those guys to be Hall of Famers, in my opinion. I think both of them were kind of missing one more dominant playoff. Not that Sabathia was truly dominant, but one good memorable playoff series to kind of solidify those arguments. I think they both made those cases personally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting that you brought up, the patience factor with the Dodgers specifically. They did seem to have the highest, walk rate or walks per game, I guess. And then the Yankees profile very similarly. They're the second place team on that list. So, the Astros do kind of have a similar, team that they're going up against. They do not, there's going to be strikeouts, but there's also going to be a lot of pitches being thrown.
Yeah, and one crazy stat from the NLDS, the Dodgers saw, I don't know the final totals, but the Dodgers saw nearly twice as many pitches as the D-backs did the entire series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's, that doesn't sound like that baffling, when you just hear it out loud, but when you actually think about what that means, that's pretty spectacular.
And that was not batting in the ninth for 2 games.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, so that's pretty much the only guaranteed starters that are listed. Darvish is going to start Game 3 for the Dodgers, but the Astros haven't announced anything yet. I imagine it would be, some combination of Morton, McCullers, and maybe Brad Peacock. Am I forgetting somebody there? I think those are their main starters. Yeah, so I think as a whole, we've talked about, these pitchers specifically and what they can bring to the table, but I think it's worth mentioning the Astros team approach this postseason so far, and it has been, I am not going to let hitters beat me in the zone. They have been throwing a lot of breaking balls and a lot of pitches outside the zone and somehow making it work. They're feasting off the aggressiveness of hitters. And even like I mentioned, the Yankees strike out a lot, but they see a lot of pitches. It clearly was an effective tactic against them. People, if you'll remember Lance McCullers in that amazing Game 7 threw, 26 consecutive curveballs to end the game, I think. And that's kind of been the theme the entire series, is don't let, the hitters get the pitch that they want to see. Rudy, how do you feel about that backwards pitching?
I think it's interesting because I guess to me, I wonder, can you really repeat that strategy when a team has the time to prepare that the Dodgers have? And I don't know the exact Dodgers strikeout statistics, but I'm guessing they're not nearly as high as the Yankees. And if you're not facing such an all or nothing lineup, I know some guys like Bellinger are a little bit more strikeout heavy, but at least to me, on paper, it feels like there's some more kind of pure contact hitters on the Dodgers. And when you're taking a huge risk when you kind of pitch that way, because if you are off that night, you're going to be, first of all, obviously very inaccurate, and second of all, hanging a ton of pitches. And for a while, that was essentially keeping the Yankees in the series, honestly, because they were capitalizing on those mistakes. Judge, for all his strikeouts, did a great job when he was left a hanging break ball to drive it out of the park. So did Gardner, so did Gregorius, so did Bird. A lot. That's what was it works both ways, a double-edged sword. And personally, I don't really think the Astros have enough talented pitchers to pull that off for an entire series successfully. Just exclusively rely on that. Obviously, they're not going to perform in the same way McCullers did, just spam it to death, because almost no pitcher in the game can do that every night, if any, ever. But to me, it doesn't feel like a sustainable strategy, in all honesty.
Well, I'm going to argue that the Astros are the best equipped team in the league to go with this approach. And I would say one of the the close seconds would be the Dodgers, but the Astros do a lot of work maximizing spin rate, and it shows with the the types of pitchers that they have been running out there. And I'm not even talking about the top of the order, or top of the rotation, Keuchel, and obviously Verlander has a very good curveball. I'm sure being in Houston has helped, but the work they've done with Charlie Morton to maximize his spin rate, his curveball moves, you talk about Rich Hill having one of the best curveballs in the game. Morton's moves just about as much, and McCullers obviously has one of the sharpest breaking balls in all of baseball. That's the one. It worked enough to throw it 20-some consecutive times in a row. And this is where tons and tons of preparation and data really comes into play. This is the biggest stage. This is where all of it gets put to use. You can be absolutely certain that every single hitter on either team will have a very specialized, game plan to go up against, from both sides, from the hitter's perspective and the pitcher's perspective. So, I think the better prepared team will benefit here. I think it'll show, because it'll be obvious who's overmatched and who's not.
I was just thinking more in terms of their bullpen, I guess, because I think 100% their rotation is very skilled in terms of the off speed. But watching every game of that Yankee series, the thing I noticed just over and over again was that that bullpen never feared me, and that while they did hold the lead 3 of those games, I guess technically 4, but they shut them down the first 2. It was really the Astros starters going deep that kept them in that series and ultimately won it for them. And I don't think modern baseball is one word in the playoffs. You can just rely on your starters to really go deep in the series and win it for you, in my opinion. I just don't think that's how the game is played anymore. And I think that's the Astros' biggest weakness.
I found some stats, some comparisons talking about how disciplined the Dodgers are and how disciplined in terms of walk rate the Yankees were. So the Yankees walked one more time, 45 times, to the Dodgers 44 times this postseason. The Yankees struck out 139 times with 9 guys with 10-plus strikeouts. The Dodgers have struck out 68 times.
Well, that just speaks to the sheer talent of that team. The number of guys that they had, absolutely scorching hot coming into this series was really impressive. Even guys like Puig were not, chasing pitches and striking out. Everybody was, a completely reborn hitter. It's impressive.
But it wasn't totally different from what they were doing during the season. But my point is that like yes, the Yankees walked a lot and the Dodgers walked a lot, but the Dodgers strike out a lot less than the Yankees did. So I think that could definitely be a factor if you're going to try to see the Patriots try to expand the zone too much. They could get in trouble there because the Dodgers were very patient with Robbie Ray in Game 2 of the NLDS, made him throw 5 walks, got him out of the game, and I think Greinke threw 5 walks in Game 3. So I mean, the Dodgers are very disciplined when they have to be, and if guys are going to lay stuff in the zone like Quintana did, they're going to jump all over them.
Yeah, and I expect almost the exact opposite from the Astros. They are going to continue to be a super aggressive team, and it works for them because they are just really talented, bat to ball type of team. They don't strike out a lot, not because they don't, swing a lot. They are just really, on it all the time. They have a lot of guys that are good at making contact. So we'll see how that all plays out. You brought up bullpens. I think it's fair to, I think it's very important actually to mention the Dodgers bullpen. In compared to the Astros bullpen, the Astros bullpen, like you mentioned, not incredibly sharp. Dodgers bullpen, the complete opposite. They were lights out throughout this entire postseason. Ray, what is making this Dodgers bullpen untouchable right now?
I mean, they just have really good pitchers, and I think guys are buying in. And what has really helped is that they haven't had to really rely on one guy. Yes, Jansen's pitched a lot. Yes, Morrow's got multiple innings, kind of a lot. But Maeda has been able to come in and shut guys down. In his role, he's been able to throw up to mid-90s. So he uses fastball effectively to set up his slider. Tony Watson has been kind of hit or miss. He's gotten hit a couple times, but he's been very good. Tony Cingrani has been very good. He's been used a lot, but like in very short stints. And I think for the Dodgers bullpen, it's just I can't really explain how good it is because we know Jansen has been good all year. Morrow was kind of under the radar how good he was. He was kind of up and down, but I mean they just seem to click right now, and it's kind of like what we talk about a lot. Like bullpens in this day and age will get you a long way, and the bullpen I think has some. They've broken the scoreless streak of innings pitched, 20-something at this point. And it's just a scary good bullpen right now. These guys are just locked in and ready to go.
Yeah, and I don't think A.J. Hinch has that comfort level of, pitchers you can bring out of the pen. I think the line stops at Ken Giles, really. After that, I don't think he feels good about guys like Will Harris and Joe Musgrove, Luke Gregerson. I think he's going to be very unique with the way he handles his starting pitching. He has a lot of starters to work with, too, to be fair. So I think there's a reason he hasn't just locked in everything after games 1 and 2. I think, the way in which he goes about using guys like Morton and McCullers and, even Colin McHugh, Mike Fiers still somewhere. I don't know exactly how the roster construction is gonna shake out, but he might staff some games in different ways than you'd imagine. Brad Peacock is another very versatile type of pitcher. I think we should expect the unexpected from the Astros bullpen. The Dodgers might be a little more traditional because they can be. They have a very, very solid, roster from starting pitching to bullpen. So, I think that's enough with the pitching side of everything. Do you guys have any other thoughts on the matchups this series? Obviously, it is all gonna go pitch by pitch. Anything can happen, but which team looks like they're sitting pretty right now? It's really hard to identify which team looks like they have the upper hand right now.
I think the Dodgers have more momentum. I mean, the Astros really struggled on the road in that ALCS. They just did not look. They looked like a young team, which they are, and the experience I think really matters in the end. And I think the Dodgers just have to go in with more confidence, regardless of that streak to end the season.
Yeah, I think too. I'm kind of looking back to the NLCS. The starters kind of matched up very well. As a Dodger fan, you're like, hey, the Dodgers could get shut out in these games, and they struggled hitting in some of the games. But once they got into the bullpen, the difference was clear. The Dodgers had a huge advantage. I don't think the Astros have as bad of a bullpen as the Cubs do, but the bullpen superiority is still very clear in this series. So I think that's where the Dodgers have the edge, and just this massive swagger they have right now. Because I could tell too, the Astros looked like they were pressing a little bit in New York, and I know it's a very tough place to play, but they looked a little bit shaky there. The Dodgers have just looked solid all around.
Yeah, let's take a more thorough look back at the previous series that's going to set up this World Series. We'll start by talking about the ALCS, which we've referenced many times already. It was all about the home wins, and every single game was won by the home team in that series. So, when you talk about the Astros struggling on the road, it's hard to say. Does that just speak to how good the Yankees were when they needed to come up big? Obviously, the Yankees had one of the best comebacks that I've ever seen in that home series there. So, I don't know if that's the road pressure that's forcing them to crack or what, but the fact of the matter is that the Astros do have to figure some things out on the road. And, talking from a very retrospective point of view, I don't think AJ Hinch would have done everything the same way to close out games in the way he did, because he went to some pitchers very tentatively, it seemed like. He didn't have the same kind of trigger finger that you'd expect from one of the more forward-thinking progressive teams. Rudy, what do you think about this the factor of having the home field advantage in a series like this?
Yeah, I think in baseball it's very hard to quantify, especially. But I mean, there's no doubt that Dodger Stadium is one. I mean, Chavez Ravine is like one of, if not the best home field advantages in baseball. And I think Minute Maid Park, just what I've seen, isn't. I mean, this seems good, but nothing special. And does that in the end really make or break the series? I don't really think so in baseball. But once again, I think we're kind of breaking down these more minor factors, and I think even down to the managerial level, someone like Hinch, it can maybe get to you that you're on this big stage with this crowd roaring, and I'm not going to say that it heavily sways or affects them, but I mean, these are like the small little variables that in the end can make the difference.
Yeah, and as a Yankees fan, that giant swing in the middle of the series felt amazing. It feels like really, a lot of momentum, but then you kind of hit that wall when you realize you're going back to Houston and you're going to face Justin Verlander.
Yeah, it really felt like, to me at least, sorry to interrupt you, that for the Yankees specifically, that's obviously who I watched the most in the playoffs, and even like when watching the Cubs try to come back for the Dodgers, I mean, the teams are kind of being carried by their home field crowds and their passions. I really don't think the Yankees come back in either of those series if Yankee Stadium isn't, full of that great atmosphere. And I think the players really do feed off that in the end. I think when you start to struggle and when things start to get tough and you're on that away field and the whole crowd is screaming at you and you can't hear yourself think, I mean, if you're a young player like Carlos Correa, for example, for as good as he is, that can affect you, I think. I don't think that's a factor that should just be ignored.
Right, and it's been impressive what these players have been able to do. Some of these. Let's talk about the first two games of the series. Very close, one-run games in both situations where the starting pitchers were really, carrying these games really deep. And the just having really clutch at bats late in the game is what it takes, and those are the at bats that you look at the most in a postseason game. Obviously every at bat matters the same, but watching Carlos Correa hit a double to right center field off Aroldis Chapman in the ninth inning, for instance, is something that tells me a lot about the kind of hitter he is. It gets to a point where it's not just luck; it is just the grit to get the job done. And I think the Dodgers very obviously have that grit as well, which is why it's going to be very interesting going toe-to-toe there. So, obviously with the Astros, the offense is, very good. Is there any X factor that you're really scared of, Ray, to face in this series? Not necessarily a Correa or Altuve. Which bats really stand out to you from like a deeper level?
Are you saying so? Like besides Correa and Altuve,
Yeah, like who scares
who am I
you?
scared of?
Yeah.
I don't think anybody scares me.
Well,
I'm not terrified of anybody in the lineup. I'm wary of Altuve and Correa. Yeah, but I think Springer has looked not that good. Looks like he's pressing this postseason, but with this, I don't have anybody down there that's like, I don't know how we're gonna get him out, other than probably Altuve. But even then, he's shown his struggles at times this postseason.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have any fears of anybody in that lineup.
Wow.
I'm gonna be a little bit more forthcoming with that information. I think the Dodgers really need to be wary of Evan Gattis, who definitely seems to be a streaky type of player, but a consistently aggressive, free swinging guy who will hit anything that he's looking for, strike or not. He will hit it a long way, and he's done it in this series. He's not fazed by the moment, and he's gonna be facing some left-handed pitchers that that he'll have an easy time handling their breaking pitches compared to from the other side of the plate. So that is one very important player for the Astros, I think, deeper in the lineup. And I think the real difference maker is going to be Alex Bregman, because he is going to hit second against these left-handed pitchers. And we saw what he was able to do against Chris Sale. I'm not going to say that Dodgers pitching is subject to the same fate as what Chris Sale did in that first series. But Alex Bregman is a weirdly overconfident type of player who is always ready to swing the bat, and he will not be fazed by the fact that he's facing Clayton Kershaw. He's going to hone in on a pitch, and if he gets it, then that's going to be a different game right there, because he is not going to be pressing. He is going to be one of those players that is just going to be aggressive. That's what it's going to look like this series, I think, from the Astros as a whole. They're just going to be a free swinging type of lineup, and I'm looking forward to that.
When I say I'm scared, I'm not saying like I don't think the Astros are going to do anything, but like that's probably just a competitor in me coming out. Like I'm not scared of anybody necessarily. I know guys you have to be wary of most of the hitters, especially Altuve, Correa, and Bregman can be a very dynamic hitter this series, but there's nobody like I said, there's nobody where you're panicking about how do I get him out, because Gattis, you just mentioned, he swings at everything. So the Dodgers can certainly use that to their advantage, as well as it seems like they can adjust at the plate. They've adjusted on the mound very well, especially with guys in their bullpen.
Yeah, and I guess we'll talk about the NLCS now and kind of switch gears and kind of reach the other direction now. And we'll start by talking about the co-MVPs, because those are going to be very obviously the hitters to watch. Justin Turner, who really should have been the only MVP, let's be honest. What he did was unreal. And Chris Taylor was thrown in the mix, fine, whatever. Co-MVPs are kind of dumb, in my opinion, anyway. But it does speak to what he was able to do in that series. So which, you know, I've such a difficult time phrasing this. Is there anything that is going to be able to stop, Turner specifically, but just the hot hitters on the Dodgers? Like, what is it going to take to shut them down? Because the Cubs clearly came up with nothing, and that was partially just because they were really bad. But even a really good team is going to have to find a way to make these guys uncomfortable. They look super comfortable at the plate. Rudy, what kind of performance is it going to take to get these guys uncomfortable at the plate?
I mean, it's going to take a performance much better than the one against the Yankees. I think I keep on saying that, but I mean, I think it's undoubtable that as good as this Yankee team played in the playoffs, I mean, the Astros were the better team, and so were the Indians in theory, at least on paper. And the Indians had probably the best pitching staff in baseball, and they really struggled in the playoffs. So it shows you that even talent doesn't make the difference in the end. And I think when you're with a team this hot as the Dodgers with this much confidence, you really have to play your A game. And when it comes to strategically playing for that, I mean, I think that means as a manager you have to be aggressive and in replacing guys and making sure guys are ready and warmed up in the pen. But at the same time, one thing I really noticed was that the Astros were very keen to take out, like for example, McCullers, I think it was game 4, I want to say, I could be wrong. He was at like 80-something pitches, pitching great, mowing down the Yankees, and they took him out. And I know he kind of the rough end of the season and was injured for a lot of it. But if a guy's hot, you can't just, say, oh, he's, at some pitch count, or, oh, he's, he had a poor season. I don't know if he's going to lose at any point. You got to ride those guys until, the moment is right. And I think that's a tough game to play, and we'll really see if the Astros will pull that off. But I think it will really take nearly perfect bullpen and starting pitching matchup management altogether for them to overcome an offense that just looks, in my opinion, too hot for an Astros team that I think in the end was carried by starting pitching. And I don't think, once again, like, that's the way to win the World Series these days. I just can't think of a way that, yet again, McCullers, Keuchel, and Verlander can carry the Astros through a 7-game series against a team this good as the Dodgers.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you a very easy way to make sure that Turner's momentum doesn't hurt you, and that's not to throw to him. Chris Taylor's a little different. Justin Turner is on a different. You might as well be Barry Bonds right now. Just that's
fair.
Treat him the same way. Don't let him be the one to beat you. The Cubs clearly had a problem with that. There's some instances where they very clearly should have pitched around him. And I know it's because who hits after him most of the time? It's Yasiel Puig, right?
It's going to be Bellinger.
Yeah, right. Bellinger most of the time when it's normal right-handed pitcher.
Bellinger hits fourth anyways.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. Bellinger. That makes sense. Turner, Bellinger. Don't let Turner be the one to beat you. That is the only thing that I think the Astros really have to make sure they do is, even just in the beginning of the series, I know Dallas Keuchel is a guy who throws a lot of strikes. He is not going to become to be okay with pitching, intentionally walking certain hitters. I'm sure most pitchers feel the same way. They feel that they have the edge over every single hitter they face. That's just their mojo. But seriously, don't pitch to him. That's the simplest way to go about it. That's all I have to say about Justin Turner anyway.
I think that's going to be hard though, because you mentioned Bellinger is behind him, and yeah, Bellinger has had some struggles, and he's been the most strikeout-prone Dodger this postseason. But it's hard to say. Okay, put Turner on first. Bring Bellinger up. Puig's going to be on deck. This lineup is deeper than I think most people give it credit for. And yes, they're shuffling towards the bottom, but I mean, I agree. It's hard. I mean, Turner's a conundrum. Like, you don't want to let him beat you, but then again, there's a lot of other guys behind him that can beat you. And if you give him the man on base, it can be very dangerous. Especially if Taylor's been such a good table setter. I think it's made it very difficult for pitchers. And when Seager comes back, he's going to be a very good 2-hitter. I think it's going to be very, very difficult for pitchers to have that mindset of we don't want to pitch to Justin Turner.
Yeah, and I get that this lineup is deep, but when somebody is, hitting with an 11, like a 1177 OPS in the postseason, there is something that you have to notice is that, okay, this guy clearly, is a different animal right now. Just don't touch him. Like, don't make him angry. That's basically the way you have to treat it. So that's just how I view it anyway. We mentioned the Cubs having zero success against the Dodgers. Basically, they had one above average outing from Arrieta that carried them an extra game, but this is a Corey Seagerless Dodgers team also that very easily manhandled the Cubs. So is there what parts of the Cubs game just really was the least impressive out of that entire performance, in your opinion, Rudy? Like, which part of the Cubs game was just the weakest?
The poise. I know it's like a cop out, but like, it's like really interesting that like a team like that can just get assaulted so easily, and kind of it never really felt like the Dodgers were not in control, and I mean, just the whole team kind of failed to perform. I think in the end, like, it kind of shows that the superstar manager is an incredibly overrated concept, in my opinion. That's what I really noticed. People really like to circle jerk around John Madden's, not John, Matt.
Did it again.
Yeah, I always do that. Madden's ability to, guide that team, but I mean, like, the talent didn't perform. It doesn't really matter as much as he wants to argue with the, umpires about an admittedly horrendous call. If the pitching doesn't perform and MVP quality hitters aren't up to speed, it doesn't really matter. I think it's really interesting to me, considering how much Theo Epstein and Madden have, and just that whole kind of team's development area has been praised recently. This was a pretty disappointing year. They made the NLCS. I mean, they kind of got lucky in the end to make the playoffs. They're in a pretty weak division, and no one on this team had a better season, really. Essentially everyone took a step back. That's a major contributor, and they made a lot of risky decisions recently in terms of trading prospects and going all in. And for example, I think one thing that's really underrated, I know I'm getting a bit sidetracked, but like a Starlin Castro move, getting rid of a guy like that to make room, and then plus all the prospects they traded this season, that starts to add up. And with Arrieta as a free agent, I mean, they have a lot of questions going forward. And I think people kind of too quickly assume that this was automatically going to be a dynasty, when in baseball, nothing is ever guaranteed. Things can change so fast, just right away.
Yeah, they are a young team, but they're also a team that needs to kind of restock a little bit. You really take a deeper look at what they have and figure that out. I mean, the Yankees look very good for the future. They have a lot of the same components, and these players that are returning have made progress. This is the right type of young player development. The Cubs have been a little bit different in that regard. With guys especially like Addison Russell, Wilson Contreras, Javier Baez, their path hasn't necessarily been smooth. Last year they were huge for that World Series win, but in terms of just long-term player development, they are not where the Cubs franchise projected them to be. And you mentioned that when MVPs don't show up, that's a big problem. Anthony Rizzo and Chris Bryant were ice cold that entire time, so that is something to worry about as well. It's I don't really have anything more to say. I was thinking about something else to say about the Cubs for 2018 going forward, but that's just the reality. They have to reevaluate. They thought they were in a really good spot last year, kind of like the Yankees feel good this year. They're young and they were already poised for great things, but the Cubs have to take a more serious look. They can't afford to have another all-in type of season at the deadline like they did this year. It didn't work. So, we'll see what they do in the offseason. We'll talk plenty about the offseason once this series is over, for sure. So, yeah, do you guys have anything else on this series? I could ask you for predictions, but I think it'd be pointless. I think most of us here are rooting for the Dodgers, to be fair. It is.
I think everyone on the podcast should be rooting for the Dodgers.
It is a difficult thing.
I can't imagine any Barbeau is rooting for the Astros. That'd be very strange.
Division rival, yeah.
I mean,
it's such a hard thing for me.
For everybody except me, like the Dodgers are less of a rival because they're National League than like what the Astros are. Because the Astros beat the Yankees, and the Astros are division rivals for the Angels. Like the Dodgers are the lesser of two evils to everybody else on this podcast.
I don't know how seriously Barbeau takes the Freeway Series, but I know very few people who really do to this degree over a division rival. I mean, Yuri, let me ask you this: would you root for the Mets or like the Orioles in the playoffs? In the World Series, who would you be rooting for? I mean, I'd probably be rooting for the Mets.
Yeah,
I had to choose. I mean, I wouldn't really want either to win, but
normally I look at I don't care about the past. Normally, I look at the players on the field and who I like. I like a lot of the Astros players. That's why I'm so conflicted. Jose Altuve is like my favorite baseball player, but he also recently just murdered my team. So I need a little more time to forget about that before I'm ready to be okay with him winning a World Series. So I don't know. I'm gonna watch it and enjoy it nonetheless. I mean, this is the best baseball of the year. So yeah, it's gonna be hard to live up to the series that they had last year. So we shall see. We shall see. It all starts tomorrow night for us. It'll be, I guess, Tuesday night, the night that you'll be hearing this most likely. So, yeah, this is probably the last time we'll talk before this season is officially over. You guys feel? I feel sad about that. This is something that I wasn't quite ready for. I mean, I love the off season too, but no more baseball every single day. I'm going to be checking my phone constantly with nothing to see, except for lousy NBA and NFL crap. But nobody cares about that really, right? How are you guys? You guys going to be okay going into this off season, coping without baseball for another few months?
I mean, this was probably the best baseball season in recent memory, personally. So I'm going to be pretty disappointed for it to end. And the Yankees run, I mean, obviously was something that I thoroughly enjoyed. And they're going to be by far my most successful team that I root for this season. So I'm going to be pretty disappointed. There's no doubt.
Yeah. I guess it's a little different for us. We feel like the season's already over, but,
Ray has a lot to look forward to.
This is all of his season right here, basically.
Yep.
It's down to the wire.
I'm still giddy right now. I'm ready to go.
I really do want to just see your reactions as you watch some of these games. I'm ready for it.
Like you told me I could watch it with you, so if you want to film it, go ahead.
I don't know if I don't know. That'd be a little bit strange, I think. Because then you'd have more incentive to perform. I just want it unfiltered, just a pure crazed Dodgers fan who is.
Oh, it's going to be unfiltered either way. I don't care.
Who has not been here in forever.
I've never been here.
Never. You have never in your lifetime. That's right. Yeah, just take me back to 2009 and I'll be fine. But this is new for you. So, yeah, that's gonna do it for our podcast today, and I guess our last podcast of the season. Next time we talk, it'll be completely different. We're changing gears. We're already gonna be looking ahead to next year. So, thanks again, everybody, for a fantastic season. I hope you enjoyed the content that we were able to bring you guys, and of course, we'd love to hear your feedback about anything. If you have questions about what this offseason holds, if you just want to let us know about anything that happened this past season, you can do so by tweeting us at WPB_podcast. We also tweet a lot during these playoff series if you're looking for that kind of thing as well. Go to our Facebook page, talk to us there, and you can also email us, warandpeacebaseball@gmail.com. I also recommend that you check out our website in the off season. We will have articles in addition to the podcast that we do. So all of that you can find at our website. Link will be down below in the description. All right. Thank you guys again for joining me anyway. Enjoy this World Series. Man, oh man. You guys ready? I'm ready. Let's do this.
I'm so ready.
You are still ready. All right. Let's go ahead and head on out of here. So, as always, Ray.
Peace.